Hello, everyone, and welcome to this in-between point between week 11 going into week 12. And before we begin, I want to just a note on our discussion post. As I've just graded the last set, discussion post 4, we have two remaining. I just want us to remind us that I really want to see us all engaging in our analysis of the text, not simply a regurgitation of the text, what's in the chapter, but I want to point to a specific idea or specific concepts and really develop your thinking from there. So let's push towards really doing that on these last two and also on your research paper. And I'll be doing a follow-up on the research paper when the final day to turn that in will be on November 19th, and that's coming up very quickly now. Now we're at the end of October. So first things, so for chapter 14, as you notice, these two chapters, very straightforward, very direct. Chapter 14 on political parties really gave us an overview on the construction of parties. And one thing to note, I wanted us to focus also on the shifting sort of platforms of the parties. So as you read, the original parties on how they shifted to that era, the pre-Civil War era, to really the strength of the Republican Party or the radical Republicans as the party of Lincoln, and to make sense of the shifting ideologies that frame those parties. You can look to today's Republican Party and today's Democratic Party and how they have really moved and shifted over time, and that is evident in those chapters. And now as we move to chapter 15, we're going to really get into how these parties gain power. What are the processes? How are their candidates nominated? What forms of platforms do they take shape, from caucuses to primary elections to direct primaries? Thinking about party conventions and the structure of that. So you're really going to learn a lot about the structures and the institutions of how theoretically these processes play out. But we know, and now that just taking from our everyday, we know politics are messy, but the general structure are laid out in these two chapters, chapters 14 and 15. So as you move through this, just keep in mind on how to contextualize sort of the historical evolution of parties, the changing of electoral norms and conditions, the foundations of the Electoral College, and and present day debates about maybe the need to remove the Electoral College and just have a winner-take-all platform, or on the other side to defend the whole having an Electoral College system that elects the president. So from here, there are various ways in which money influences campaigns. And this is laid out from the FEC, the Federal Election Commission that governs federal elections. We've had campaign finance reform in 2002 from Senator John McCain, Republican, and Democrat Russ Feingold, who tried to rein in some of that soft money in campaigns. But then Citizens United versus FEC 2010. So this is the case that overturns that attempt to draw in or to ban the soft money. And this is the single most important case that is in front of us right now, because it allows for corporations to be treated as persons and therefore to contribute as much unlimited funding to shape political outcomes. And they do this not necessarily directly, giving money directly to candidates, but to political action committees. So this is very, very important when we're thinking about democracy and one person, one vote, and who has political influence in this nation. And we know this past election, a lot of that money, these two candidates spent over $2 billion with the B dollars on the presidential campaign. That's a lot of money being spent to sway the vote. So these are things that I just want you to consider as we move through this. And next week, meaning week 13, we will be reading the chapter on social movements. And the social movement chapter is a very important chapter because this is where movements on the ground begin to challenge the establishment of the political parties and the structure of elections. Okay, and on that week, on November 12th, you will also have a discussion post framed from on that social movement chapter and taking into account the structures that they are up against. So on that, I will also be expecting, as I started this today, I really want to see a development, right? Not just another post that we get down to, okay, the deadline is coming and I'm just going to write something up. I've been very generous in the points that I've given out, but now as we're building through the course and moving towards the end of the course, this latter part, I really want us to begin to think critically and develop, and also be sure to edit your discussion postings, check your grammar, take these postings as if you are developing an essay. Okay, so with that, I will leave you. Have a great week, and if you have any questions, again, send me an email or come see me during office hour, or we'll set something up virtually. Okay, have a great week.